Peace to the tribes, man. Tawada to our framer and shaper, that is our Hawa, the Ha and the Wa. We're just talking Mama and Papa to you. Hey, hi to the beautiful family out here. We're just surfing the wave. Y'all know how it is when we surf the wave, man. We're back with another one. I just felt like, I couldn't resist, because once again we did it again. Once again we did it again. Our last drop was so informative, and again, it was within the tune of things. Definitely within the tune of things, within the frequency of things, and it's just a humbling feeling to know that you're within the flow. Tawada to you, that is 432. Tawada to Hawa. We're gonna be getting into some heavy, because I was able to realize, like, we've been talking on this the entire time. Alright? And it's, of course, been expressed differently. But when you take the babies out the bathwater, you're still getting the same suit, The universe doesn't speak English. It speaks frequency. So even though I'm speaking English, if you don't happen to understand, overstand what it is that I'm putting down, well, maybe you just don't speak the frequency the way we do. We specialize in speaking that frequency, man. Aha to the beautiful tribe, that is the Wata, that is the flow. Oh man, I was electrified with this one. As soon as I saw it, I posted the short, and as you can tell, right about now, it got hijacked, man. That thing is gone viral, got snatched. And now we got a bunch of jabronis on the channel talking they hijack, kicking they hijack. So, we're gonna go ahead and surf the wave, man, and just refresh the memory of all the loved ones out there. We definitely been surfing this wave. And we're gonna get cozy, we're gonna tribe up, we're gonna vibe up as we bring in my birthday this coming Shabbat. While we resting up and charging up, it also be, my Earth Day. So with that being said, man, I just wanted to, address the tribe in a vibrational build, a motivating build, an inspiring build. All right, so let's get into this frequency talk, and let's see what we got. Hey, out to the real ones. So since we're mentioning how the universe speaks frequency, let's go ahead and dive into some frequency. Let's talk frequency. See, when you understand just the importance of sound, your mind, body, and spirit, well, we get to build on some captivating things, right? Hey, how I told my real ones, my OGs, that basically always kept me in shape, right? In tip-top shape. Always making sure that the sword stays sharp. Alright, so your voice commands your mind, body, and spirit. Your voice, we're talking sound, right? Learn the true meaning of each word, the root and original intention. It's very important to focus on your intention. Alright, make yourself one with your word, to be impeccable with your word. Find the cousins or synonyms to each word. Say it, feel it. Which one will move you forward in your own life? Alright. So here we have a bunch of negative frequencies that will basically corrupt, spoil, and interrupt your intention. Using words and phrases like I can't, I won't, it's hard. Alright, I can't will literally stop growth. It will literally put a block in your way. I won't, can mount is a command to self. Alright, it's hard equals will literally stop you from achieving anything in your life. I don't believe is a taught behavior that is a conditional to hold a person back. I'm a skeptic stops a person from learning. I don't like it stops a person from gaining intellect IQ. When we're talking about energy, vibration, well, that combination gets us into matter. And when we realize that our thought is energy, our seeing is energy, our emotions are energy, and we understand that the talking, the speaking, the formation of the sound are all vibrations. Try and you will do it over and over, never get to the end. Trying puts a block in your way. Try is a command to self. Trying is a taught behavior that is a condition to hold a person back. I'm trying. It has very little or no results. I will try. It is like running a race with no end. I will attempt. It is never ending. It is repetitious. Your thoughts with your voice merged is your reality. Help the self, your higher self, by walking the absolute truth of your own life. Meditate and pray. Keep your thoughts, actions, and words positive. Be self-empowered and use the tools presented in a good way. And when you speak in a positive affirmation and you will the result of positive intention and positive impact, saying words like I can literally promotes growth. I am. Can is a command to self or calm, right? I believe allows your wants and needs and desires to come true. It is done is a behavior of using good words. I can do it is a conditional and it moves a person forward in life. I can do anything. When you know inside you can do it, your body needs to hear it. Your body reacts to key words. Which is why it's always beautiful to say kind things unto yourself. Which is why we say shalom to the tribe, shalom to the tribes, man. So now that we got our vibration on point, now that we're speaking in frequency, let's carry on. Hey, how to the real ones. Alright, so here we have this particular version of the periodic table, right? The more standard, accepted, recognized version of the periodic table. So, one of the things that, I was hearing and I basically see, even on my page being said, is the fact that this periodic table makes sense, right? And it's aligned by atomic weight. And I guess if you believe in this paradigm, or if you agree with this paradigm, then for sure it makes sense, right? As we can see, it's also color coordinated, and I guess we can also throw in sound as well. So as we can see, according to each color, it represents the process, the action on which these elements came into fashion, right, into being. And let them tell it, they'll tell you that an element is basically the atom, right, which cannot be broken down any more than that state that it's in, right? And that's the lowest state it can be reduced to, or its purest state, I guess, right, in origin. And so they have these things set up according to atomic weight, the mass. This is what we learn in school according to standard chemistry. And as you can see, right, before we'll break down the formation and what Terrance Howard was really getting at, if we just take the table as they're giving it to us, right, they're telling us that hydrogen and helium are processed in causations of this so-called Big Bang fusion. Alright? This Big Bang fusion, at the end of the day, man, when you dodging all hijacks, when you're not in the mind of a hijack, the Big Bang fusion is just the sound in the action, the sound in the action. We'll get into that a little bit later on, all right? But pay attention to just how they're grouping these elements together, and they're letting us know by association of how basically they came into causation. All right, so we see that hydrogen and helium were based off what they're referring to as from a Big Bang fusion when you're dodging all hijacks. The green, the light lime green, seems to be from a dying low mass stars. So a low mass star that happens to be dying. Then you got this golden orange one, more so being originated from exploding massive stars. Then we got cosmic ray fissions, and then we got merging neutron stars, and then we got exploding white dwarfs. Now, you got to keep in mind when you're surfing the wave, you can't be, thinking of this in the same manner of the hijack, right? As far as the so-called term of space. When you look out into that expanse, I know people like to say it's the firmament due to the flat plane. Got you. We're talking orientation. Got you. But to disregard it as something that's non-existent is a part of the ignorance. It's a part of the lockdown. It's a part of the program. All right? It's a part of the condition which holds you back. Once you give an awareness and acceptance to that expanse they refer to as space, well, we get into some very interesting things. So keep this in mind. We're going to come back to it. All right. But when you're aware of what atoms are, then you're aware that atoms are constant in a state of motion. And depending on the speed of these atoms, things appear as a solid, liquid, or gas. Sound is also a vibration, and so are thoughts. Alright, so we're talking about these atoms and how these atoms can have a connection with these vibrations. So that also means that these atoms can have a connection or relation with your thoughts. And again, atoms are the constant state of motion, which are what these elements are. Alright. Keep in mind, we're coming off the drop when we were digging ghosts, right? We were talking about ghosts. We were digging on ghosts. Ghosts being a form of gas. Alright, I would have called this one part 3, but there's no reason to continue to attack the whiteness being the cult any further. Instead, I would like to just focus behind the science within itself. And when we do that, we're focusing on the energy, right? And the matter is breaking down into the energy that is the vibration. So the vibration can be described as a frequency. And then frequencies are or can be expressed as numbers. And then numbers can be perceived and organized as forms and patterns. So you see, this is basically backing up what we went over in the last drop in the part 2 of whiteness is a cult. Right? And we put that out just a week and a half before this Terrance Howard dropped on the Joe Rogan show. Right? So if we see all of these things as energy, and we know that elements are causations of energy, well, what Terrance Howard is getting at is the fact that this is supposed to be a representation of life. But this very periodic table is letting us know that the very elements that are responsible for causing life and playing their pivotal role in life, in the causation of life, is actually being boxed in. And what happens to anything that is alive that is placed in a box, right? You don't grow to your maximum potential. You're not able to receive your maximum potential for growth. It's a stunt. So even in that, as we're speaking frequency, I gotta talk to you like this from here on out. I gotta talk to you like this, my nigga. So just these elements being, expressed in this periodic table, in this periodical table form, lets us know we're talking about a lockdown, all right, and a confinement. How can these atoms, which we just got, are constant in the state of motion, depending on the speed, be reflected by a box? This is what the brother was talking about, because again, we were speaking in frequency. Now, he definitely has some hijack on his end, but for the sake of orientation, we'll go ahead and iron those specifics out for him in this presentation. But carrying on, we're showing how he was right, and he was right. All right. So now that we understand and understand, we're gonna go ahead and carry on to the next part of this drive. Ahab to the loved ones. So see, I wanted to bring the tribe over here to a video we did a couple years ago. And the title of this video is called Stars Are Singing Waters of the Deep. And in this video, I go into great depth and detail just about how such things are possible. And we really dive and surf the wave. All right. We're going to go ahead and refer back to this video. And, you know, I'm going to really draw this picture and bring it full circle, bring it back home, because I'm starting to realize, like, you know, as I do these drops, sometimes, you know, I could be speaking from a way out perception. And that's okay, because in the moment, everything that I'm expressing and basically recording and sharing with you guys makes 1000% sense to me, you know. So with that being said, I get that sometimes it can seem like I'm out there, but seeing, you know, Terrance Howard have this drop really just gels it for me, because it's letting me know that I've been surfing this wave in a manner, as we'll see, right? We'll get to it. But I've been surfing this wave in a certain manner that's made these things evident to me. It made it clear. Plus, we got the orientation pies on deck. Okay, that means we know what's going on. But I got some things to introduce to you, right? Some thoughts. Now, we see right here in the video, we were discussing that sound creating light, or sonoluminescence is the emission of short bursts of light from imploding bubbles in a liquid through intense acoustic frequency. Okay, so basically what this is saying is that there's an emission, a pushing, right? A burst of light from a bubble that implodes. A bubble. Now, if you're paying attention to this drop, we were basically painting out that stars are just water of the deep. So when you're thinking about so-called space, if you're not seeing that as a form of water, as a form of electricity, right? A form of mineral, then you're missing out on the very connection to such things. Religion tends to stunt our view very heavily, because this religion is a program, but you can still keep on the esoteric meanings, right? The spiritual buildup that is originally intertwined in the ingredients of religion, but to remain programmed by the dogmatic practices without understanding is truly a disservice and an injustice to the experience. Okay, when you realize that what we refer to as space, and if you can imagine what we refer to as space, the ether, if you can imagine that it is possibly encased in sound, that maybe is nothing but vibrational energy that surges, sort of like a whirring, or that zzz effect that you can pick up from electricity. If this so-called ether, that darkness that is above our heads, right, when the sun isn't present, if you can imagine that being full of sound, well, now we're getting into it. Keep in mind, right, when we're reading the book of Genesis, it is expressed that the Most High spoke light into existence, spoke life into existence. Again, we are talking about the sound, we are talking about the vibration, and then we are talking about the expression. All right. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Let's see. Trying to get it right. Okay, hold on. We'll get it right. Let's get it right. All right, so it says sound is a physical phenomenon that cannot exist without a medium. Now keep this in mind, right? It cannot exist without a medium. This is very interesting, a very interesting use of words. Okay, it cannot exist without a medium, and it is often described as a vibration that propagates as a wave, able to travel through all forms of matter, gases, liquids, solids, and plasmas. We're talking about sound. All right, Shabbat, we're talking about sound. So if you keep in mind that we're talking about Hawa speaking these things into existence, keep in mind stars are suns. Okay, stars are suns. You have to understand this. Every star is a sun. So when we see that the Most High was creating stars, these are other suns that come with. I mean, think about what our sun is doing over here for us. All right, my nigga. Think about what our sun is doing over here for us. That means for every star, that is another sun doing something else in that region. And if one sun is on the earth causing us this much energy, you really think that there's another sun that's that strong or just as strong, so close? You think that the Most High really has you confined in this manner? All right, let's get a little bit more. All right, cymatics is a term for the pattern of vibration that occur on the surface of an object when it is excited by sound. And that's basically what we're going to go ahead and get into, because we're going to look at this luminescence taking place. We're going to watch just the effects of an imploding bubble. Okay, keep in mind, we're giving these guys a little credit as far as into their structure of their periodic form, and we're relating their causation to these elements. Remember, they were talking about, let's get it back, right? Partially this so-called Big Bang fusion. We're talking sound, acoustics, right? Music. So if that's what we're talking about, and if that's how we're surfing the wave, well, let's continue to use this sound as the primary function for creating such a thing. So we're going to go ahead and get an example, and we're going to carry on. Shalom.
Luminescence was in a darkened room. I was transfixed to look at this sphere, and you look. That was a little odd to you. Beautiful, beautiful. And we just looked at one 11 times a second pulsar and 16 millisecond pulsars, and you start seeing Psalm 48 come to life. The first time I saw sonoluminescence was in a darkened room. I was transfixed to look at this spherical flask of fluid, and you look into the center.
Now, this just goes to show, a lot of these people are pushing, this whole sphere, right? But what I started thinking about was, okay, if we're talking dimensions and we're talking water, right? Now, no, water does not roll on the ball or roll in a ball in natural formation, right? That's pretty much impossible. But if you have cymatics and we're talking about loud sounds, like think of a gigantic speaker just on blast, well, maybe this drop of water would take form, right? This drop of water would take a form and it would respond to the resonance that is receiving from this permeating sound. Just something to think about as we surf this wave.
And in the center, see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye.
Now, see, this right here looks like a star, right? And it could resemble and be taken as a star. So when we go ahead and apply this back to stars and understand that a bubble, right? Again, we were talking hydrogen when we were dealing with these things. Hydrogen being the gene of water, right? The production of water. So if we're talking about a bubble having all of this energy that as it's about to implode builds and develop this charge of energy that displays and emits light, that should it should get you floating on what a star actually is, Shabbatai, and that's what we're breaking down right about now. All right, because we're talking elements. Lego.
I was transfixed to look at this spherical flask of fluid. And you look into the center, and in the center see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye. It looked like a star in the heavens.
This star in a jar is made when a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid. And this sound wave makes the bubble do something remarkable.
So you see what's going on? Sound is passing through this bubble, and we're about to watch something miraculous happen. All right. It's a bubble. Again, we're talking water. Okay. So when sound, the vibration, and water interact, we now get what is referred to as dimensions. Okay. Still an optical illusion, but we're talking now dimensions, because dimensions are presented with form. And when you begin to shape and form, okay,
then it collapses. And this collapse happens so violently that vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a
several times a sun. Did you hear what she said? Did she say that?
Several thousand times a second.
Several thousand times a second.
Gotcha. Giving the appearance of a star.
Giving the appearance of a star. Now look, we are now talking about color. So you see how this is all synonymous. Wavelength, frequency, photon, energy. All right, so this is how they started to build their periodic table. Okay. But as we'll see, the boy Terrance Howard has a point, man. Let's get it. Let's get it. Now, this is exactly what we were just talking about in the whiteness is a cult part 2. Okay, this should look familiar, right? And it should be definitely ringing bells, dragonfly perspective. We talking 720 if you ask me, and we'll get to that later, right? But 720 if you ask me, dragonfly perspective. You know what I'm saying, my nigga? You talking dragonfly vision, quartz vision. Let's activate. Let's charge up. All right, so now that we got that example from this video, again, this is stars or singing waters of the deep. You can go ahead and catch that at any given time. Appreciate you surfing the wave. Let's continue. All right, so I remember reading the scripture, right? And it was talking about how the Most High beat out the firmament, right? Completely beat out the firmament like a metal sheet, like a sheet of metal, right? Just beat out the firmament with his strong right hand, with his arm, right? With his right arm, he just beat out the firmament. Bang, bang, bang. Now that sounds crazy, right? But I remember reading the scripture, the Shamayim, right? The firmament. He beat it out with his right arm, with his strong arm. Now, I could never imagine such a thing until, I was doing research on the last drop, the stars are singing waters of the deep, and I came across this shrimp, and this shrimp has to be a tiny little shrimp. You know what I'm saying? A tiny little shrimp, but the punch that it packs is an exact replication of the scripture that I read the Most High did in order to basically construct the firmament. And what's crazy is that this shrimp is known to have the strongest punch in the animal kingdom. This shrimp has the strongest punch in the animal kingdom. And it replicates the same actions that Hawa took to create the expanse we know as so-called space. But don't take my word for it. Let's surf the wave.
Obviously, but how fast?
Unfurl as fast as a .22 caliber bullet.
In fact, as strong as a .22 caliber bullet.
With the force of a .22 caliber bullet.
At the speed of a .22 caliber bullet.
But what does that mean?
The acceleration of the claw is similar to a .22 caliber bullet.
Acceleration! That's what's going on. Come on, guys.
As fast as
as strong as
With the force of a
The speed of a .22 caliber bullet.
Pull it together, y'all. The acceleration is like going from 0 to 60 in 0.2 milliseconds. In fact, the claw gets up to 45 miles an hour. Hit a shell with that speed and you'll get one nice force peak. Hit a shell with that speed in water and something else will happen. Looking back at DeVries footage, there's one frame where something shows up. Right there. It's a bubble. The crazy acceleration and force cause cavitation, which is this. The bounce back causes the club and the shell to move apart so fast that they leave behind a tiny area of very low pressure, approaching a vacuum. But when you drop...
Now see, those that have seen the Terrance Howard interview with Joe Rogan, no, this is exactly what he said, right? He said that he found hidden dimensions in between the negative spaces of the shapes, right? So this force is the same causation of this negative space, right? And now that this negative space exists in between the shrimp and the shell, well, this develops a vortex of energy that now has to propagate. It has to propel itself, right? We're talking propulsion. So, yeah, man, again, he was right. And we're going to show how he was right. And, point out, of course, where his orientation was off. But let's surf the wave, Shabbat.
Apart so fast that they leave behind a tiny area of very low pressure, approaching a vacuum. But when you drop the pressure...
And it's interesting that she said vacuum because that's the same term that he used when describing his negative space.
Very low pressure, approaching a vacuum. But when you drop the pressure real low in water, what happens?
Water in the cup. Yeah. Vacuum pump is on. Pressure's going down.
You see it boiling. Oh, look. Yeah, it's boiling.
What? Water is boiling. Oh, that's sick. When does it start boiling?
This water is still at room temperature, but when you decrease the pressure, the water boils. So you have low pressure, and then the water boils, and then you get a vapor bubble, but it doesn't last very long. Almost immediately, the bubble collapses, and when it does, energy and light are released in a violent process, violent enough to cause the second force peak in that graph. It's caused by cavitation, and the temperature in that bubble gets up.
So you see what's going on? She said that light and energy is emitted or created by the implosion or the bursting of this bubble. All right, that happened to generate from water boiling. There was heat provided. So as we can see, there are chemical reactions happening within the force that create different pockets of dimensions or optical illusions, however you want to take it. Okay, but this is the same process that sounds similar to the Most High when he beat out the Shamayim, right? When we're talking about the shaping and the fastening of the firmament. Notice how she said it's a violent act.
It collapses, and when it does, energy and light are released in a violent process, violent enough to cause the second force peak in that graph. It's caused by...
So see, violent, right? And that does put us right back into the origin of Genesis, because we're talking about a continuation of this war. You know, keep in mind, they were talking about a war of the heavens. Okay. You got certain theories floating around that was a causation of this so-called Van Allen's belt. All right. This Van Allen's belt was supposed to be the result of such an action. So if we're paying attention, it doesn't sound too off, and it's replicated and illustrated in nature. And what's more natural than finding your illustrations within nature? This is where the magic comes in. You know what I'm saying? Peace to the loved ones, man. I'm having fun.
by cavitation, and the temperature in that bubble gets up to the temperature of the surface of the sun.
Now, how can that bubble get up to the surface temperature of the sun? Again, we're talking about stars. Do you really hear what Anaga's telling you right now, Shabbatai? Do you really hear what Anaga's telling you right about now? Like, come on now. Let's peep it.
It's caused by cavitation, and the temperature in that bubble gets up to the temperature of the surface of the sun.
Right, the temperature inside of a tiny bubble as it implodes next to a tiny shrimp. Small and fierce.
So why are these animals so aggressive?
So the mantis shrimp are actually...
All right. Now that we got that example, I'm pretty sure we now have it in mind just how such things were possible. Ahab to you for being such a great sport. You know what I'm saying, loved one? We building in the ether right about now. We're going to go ahead and continue on surfing the wave. Special Ahab to you. So, you know, notice how we were talking about stars, right? And the elements, and how such fusions of sound could have taken place. Okay, so if you know that this is Wata that we're talking about, that Wata, that mem sauce, right? Shout out to my bro Yosef. If you know we're talking about that mem sauce within the ether, well, now you can see how we're talking about elements. Alright. We're gonna dig on some elements. Now this element is straight out of a meteorite. And what do we know meteorites to be as? That's right. Your Dracons, right? We're talking dragons, Dracons. We're talking you. Alright. So we're getting an example of some elements that are encrusted and embedded into this meteorite, and this meteorite came from the ether. It fell from the ether, man. I'm talking elements. Same elements that's on that periodic chart, periodic table. Alright, so here we got the Fukang meteorite. Is a meteorite that was found in the mountains near Fukang, China in 2000. It is a palisite, a type of stony iron meteorite with olivine crystals. It is estimated to be about 4.5 billion years old. Alright, you see what's going on? Alright, we're talking meteors, Dracons. And this is where, you know, a lot of these elements originated from. We just got to drop how a lot of these elements are atoms, right? Which is energy. And we know these meteorites, these Dracons, cometas, are full of energy. Ayah to the Shabbat. If you're feeling good, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and express yourself. If the energy is vibrating, go ahead and express yourself. Alright, so this is that Fukang. Pretty big slab. And how is it that this guy is holding it if they found it in China? I have no idea. But we for sure know that it's real. Alright, I mean, just take a look at it, right? I'm talking elements. Pure elements, right? So they know a lot more of these things or about these things than they, you know, intend to let on. Okay, now keep in mind we're talking about the shapes and forms of crystals. Okay. A double terminated crystal absorbs and emits energy. They also transform negative energy. A point concentrates and directs energy. Okay, it concentrates and then it directs energy. Clusters radiate throughout a space. Okay, they radiate. So this is a frequency center right here. They also charge other crystals. And then a raw form is strong open energy, which is sporadic and powerful. So what we just saw back here was it in its raw form. Alright, But if you realize that crystals, minerals are elements of consciousness, which are vibrations and energy, then you understand the relation. Once you realize all things have a consciousness, you're on a different channel. You begin to surf a different wave. If a crystal is smooth and rounded, its energy will be calmer and more balanced. If a crystal contains points or it is not smooth, its energy will be directed by the direction of its points. The size of a crystal does not necessarily dictate the strength of its energy. Alright, so for all y'all surfing the wave, you know where to go find some natural stones and gems. Hey, hard to the real ones. We're gonna carry on. Alright? Because the chemicals within these elements, or the elements, happen to be chemicals. That's what I'll say, right? It says a chemical element is a substance, right? Is a chemical substance that cannot be broken down into any other substance by chemical reactions. It says the basic particle that constitutes a chemical element is the atom. Chemical elements are identified by the number of protons in the nuclei of their atoms, known as the element's atomic number. Alright? For example, oxygen has an atomic number of 8, meaning that each oxygen atom has 8 protons in its nucleus. 2 or more atoms of the same element can combine to form molecules, in contrast to chemical compounds or mixtures, which contain atoms of different elements. Atoms can be transformed into different elements in nuclear reactions, which can change an atom's atomic number. Alright? So we see that this is a chemical element, right? So we're talking chemicals. Okay, so it says the history of discovery and the use of elements began with primitive human societies. That means the first. Alright, the first. And then this guy, as we'll see a little bit later, he comes along and he develops this periodic table. Now, you can just take one look at this guy and just get a sense. Alright? You just get a sense that maybe his contribution wasn't for the interest of everyone. Alright? But he's the one that created the periodic table as we know of it today. Alright. So as you can see, they'll tell you, oh, the lightest chemical elements are hydrogen and helium, which were both created by the Big Bang nucleosynthesis. And again, we're talking sound. Right? Here we have that bismuth, and we still got some of that on deck, right? So we're talking about elements. See, so these elements tend to take crystal structures. Alright? This is now you guys probably see why me and others, right? Why we can be so into this stuff. You start getting back to the origin of things. Alright. So again, here goes the periodic table. Right? And it's color coded accordingly and everything. Okay, so I wanted to bring you to the origin of elements, right? The origin of the elements. Because this is what no one really wants to talk about, right? It says only about 4% of the total mass of the universe is made up of atoms or ions. Only 4%, man, of the total mass of the universe is made up of atoms or ions, and thus represented by the chemical elements. This fraction is about 15% of the total matter, with the remainder of the 85% being dark matter. And this is what we're talking about, right? Which is why I asked, when you look up into this so-called space, it's all about your perspective, your perception. And if you're just seeing it as a void, the program and the hijack is being ran on you. Right? Only 4% of the total mass of the universe is made up of atoms or ions, and thus represented by chemical elements. This fraction is about 15% of the total matter, with the remainder of the matter, 85%, being dark matter. Alright, it says the nature of dark matter is unknown. Now, picking up from our last presentation, we were building on this darkness, right? I was going over the shade, the shadow, the phantom, the ghost, right? We were going over the tones, the shape, the matter, the form. We were talking about your arts and channeling that which is dark, because we understand that they've placed you in this dark connotation, but only because you are the darkness personified. Okay, we're gonna get into what this dark matter really is, right? It says the nature of dark matter is unknown, but it is not composed of atoms of chemical elements, because it contains no protons, neutrons, or electrons. The remaining non-matter part of the mass of the universe is composed of even the less well understood dark energy. Now let's open up this dark energy real quick, all right? It says in physical cosmology and astronomy, dark energy is an unknown form of energy that affects the universe on the largest scales. Its primary effect is to drive the accelerating expansion of the universe. A Assuming that the lambda CDM model of cosmology is correct, dark energy is the dominant component of the universe. Alright? Contributing 68% of the total energy in the present day observable universe, while dark matter and ordinary baryonic matter contribute 26% and 5% respectively. Okay, so this dark energy that we're talking about, as we'll see, is the substance of it all. Alright? And this is why they don't explain what it is, because it actually points and entails your origin. 94 naturally occurring chemical elements were produced by at least 4 classes of astrophysical process. Most of the hydrogen, helium, and a very small quantity of lithium were produced in the first few minutes of the Big Bang. This Big Bang nucleosynthesis happened only once, and the other processes are ongoing. Nuclear fusion inside stars produces elements through stellar nucleosynthesis, including all elements from carbon to iron in atomic number. Elements higher in atomic number than iron, including heavy elements like uranium and plutonium, are produced by various forms of explosive nucleosynthesis in a supernova and neutron star mergers. Okay, so then they're telling you this is all from the dying star, which is a sun, if not a planet. Okay, and so as we can see, we go right back into this periodic table. So if they're running with the theory of the Big Bang without the absence, or with the absence of Hawa, well, we start to see pretty much the containment or the lockdown of our livelihood, right? The essence, the main ingredients of our spark is locked down in a box, which doesn't sound too different from prison. And if this is the case we're going off of, well, guess what? Terrance Howard had a point. Because this doesn't represent life. The concept of an element as an indivisible substance has developed through 3 major historical phases: classical definitions such as those of the ancient Greeks, chemical definitions, and atomic definitions. Ancient philosophy posited a set of classical elements to explain observed patterns in nature. These elements originally referred to earth, water, air, and fire, rather than the chemical elements of modern science. The term elements was first used by the Stoica, right? Stoica or Stoichia. Okay, so element stoichia was first used by the Greek philosopher Plato in about 360 BCE in his dialogue Timaeus, which includes a discussion of the composition of inorganic and organic bodies, and is a speculative treatise on chemistry. Okay, so here we see that Plato introduced what is referred to as the Platonic solids, right? The tetrahedron being fire, the octahedron being air, the icosahedron being water, and the cube being earth. Now it's funny how cube is representation of earth through this Platonic solid, and this periodic table is in this cube. So to them, they're gonna tell you that this represents life, right? By putting you in a cube or box. And if you're really surfing a wave, this should be giving you some Metatron vibes right about now, right? And if you know about the Metatron vibes, then you know about the Saturn vibes. But we're going to say that for a different discussion. Aristotle in 350 BCE also used the term stoicheia and added a fifth element called ether, which formed the heavens. Okay? Aristotle defined an element as one of those bodies into which other bodies can be decomposed, and that itself is not capable of being divided into other. So he called this fifth element ether. Right? This fifth element ether. Now, if you see right here, it says, according to the ancient and medieval science, ether, also known as the fifth element or quintessence. It is the material that fills the region of the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere. Now, that's exactly what this dark energy is. It is the unknown form of energy that affects the universe on the largest scales. Its primary effects is to drive the accelerating expansion of the universe. We're talking ether, right? Ether. Which is why it's so important this is why I go over these drops and why I'm always cramming in the ether, right? Because we can't talk this elemental talk without it. There's no understanding, and I was realizing this by the acknowledgement of the ether. We're gonna get into some other things that I was able to acknowledge too that helped me build on this, right? So they play off this dark matter and dark energy to keep everyone in limbo. But when we're digging on the quintessence is the fifth and highest element in ancient medieval philosophy that permeates, you see what's going on? That permeates all nature and is the substance composing the celestial bodies. The essence of a thing in its purest, most concentrated form. We're talking about the ether. We're talking about the ether. The ether being its quintessence. Alright? It says, long ago, when people believed that everything was made up of four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, they thought the stars and planets were made up of yet another element. In the Middle Ages, people called this element by its medieval Latin name, quinta essentia, literally meaning the fifth essence. English users have kept the quintessence, the offspring of the quinta essentia, as a word for the purest essence of a thing. Some modern physicists have given quintessence a new twist. They use it to refer to a form of the dark energy, which is believed to make up almost 70% of the energy in the observable universe. Keep in mind, right? The darker you got, the more inclusive all the other colors were. So if we're talking about dark energy is the absorption of all colors which can be observed. This is why our last drop was just so in sync. Alright? It was just so in sync with what's going on. And then here comes Terrance Howard, and he just drops this bombshell, and good looking out, because it gives the topics that I speak about more shedded light. Right? And now we're building on this dark energy, which is a hypothetical form of energy that produces a force that opposes gravity. You see what's going on now? It opposes gravity. And why is everybody in my comments tripping right now? They're all tripping because this dark energy that Terrance Howard is introducing, right, and proposing in his statement, in his argument, he's opposing gravity. I got videos on here establishing that very thing, that gravity is destroyed once we open up the electromagnetic frequency, right? It is thought to be the cause of the accelerating expansion of the universe. So we're talking that ether, man. The ether is the force of energy that opposes gravity. Alright, this ether opposes gravity, and it is the dark energy. So let's continue on surfing the wave with this dark energy. Peace to the loved ones. See, you are the dark inner G, the dark inner Hawa. You are the dark inner G, the inner G in human form. The dark inner G is the ever expanding spark of life in all existence and is conscious. Melanin is an essential cosmic spiritual composite found in all dark matter. Carbon is the basis for which all physical DNA is formed, composed of 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. Beings, though you are of them, you are them and can summon these forces or powwows at will as a creator / alchemist or source. We don't want to use that word, right? But we will say magician, or one who manipulated the source from which they are and dwell. So again, this is your magic, and we've been speaking on this, right, Shabata? Now we just combined your energy, your matter, and your elements all in one. And what was Terrance Howard referring to? That carbon. He even said that the carbon had a bisexual tone to it, meaning that it has multiple genders or polarity, right? Negative, positive, feminine and masculine. We're gonna get to it. Alright, we're gonna get to it because we're talking about you. And now that we're right on time talking about you, now that we're talking about this dark energy, now that we understand that Melanin is essential cosmic spiritual composites found in all dark matter, and that the element carbon, which is the base of your melanin, is the basis of all physical DNA. And when we're talking about DNA, we're talking about light. We're talking about elements. Surf the wave, loved one. We're talking secret of light, right? The secret of light. It says the principle of love is desire to give. The law of love is arithmetic balance interchange between all givings and re-givings. The symbol of love is the wave of dual light, which gives and re-gives equally and arithmetically. So if this is how light is personified or materialized, well, hell, we can't get this expression from a box, man. You mean to tell me you want me to receive? Let me see if I can get it. Let's see, right? Let's get it in real time. You want me to be able to perceive that light moves like that while being stuck in a fucking box? How is the light supposed to flow if come on, if this is the Ahab of the light of Ahab, right? How can this be expressed in a fucking container, man? This is why Terrance Howard came. Right? Pause. This is why he popped up to do his thing. You see what's going on? We're talking about love, rhythm, frequency. If you don't speak frequency, fuck English. If you don't speak frequency, you don't know what's going on. This is why I gotta talk to you like this, Shabbat. I gotta talk to you like this from here on out. Shabbat, I gotta talk to you like this. I gotta talk to you like this from here on out to preserve the art. Light is supposed to look like this, right? Spiral formation, active, alive. We have a pulse. The secret of light is love. Where's the love coming from in the box? Alright, this shit looks dead. Everything's flat. As in straight. As in hair. That straight hair that does not curl. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. We wanna be vibrant. We wanna be full of charge, my naga. And how does a charge look? A charge looks like this. That's how a charge looks. You know? But don't just take my word for it. Let's see what, Terrance Howard actually said himself. To see if Natural's on point or not. Let's see if Natural actually knows what he's talking about. We're talking sound and frequency, right? Ahab to the loved ones, man. Special Ahab to you, because this is for you, tribe. This is for 432. We talking Dry Nation. Hawa. I'm in my bag right now. Natural's having fun. Let's get it. So to all you crazies, you jabronis in my comments, we are really about to expose the fact that y'all have no frequency, no vibration, man. Cause I just showed you why Terrance Howard said what he said, right? So let's get to it. Let's surf that wave. Let's turn this up. All right. We all straight. See the value? Yes, sir. We're all straight. Let's go.
He built the periodic table. What do you mean specifically?
Well, the way the periodic table is laid out, the periodic table they have now,
Let's see.
it looks like a
Pull
box.
an image of it.
It looks like a straight box.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't show that hydrogen has the same tone as carbon.
What do you mean by tone?
Now, see, immediately in his comparison, right? In Wilson's periodic table, we see a spiral. You see that spiral? Now, we just saw how love was the secret of light. Ahab was the secret of light. So if Ahab is the secret of light, then that means whoever imparted this light onto you, whoever gave you this light, gave it to you in the fashion of love. How do we know that? Because light travels and is transferred in a spiral formation to show its livelihood, to show its activity, to express its action, right? Hawa is that action. The ha and the wa is the action, the breathing in and the breathing out. All right. It's the liveliness, the livelihood, the pulse, the beep, 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 the bump, the beep, right? That is what you're looking at, and this is what he was expressing. The periodic table, the box, does not express life. That shit is contained. And if I was radical energy being contained, I don't get to express how live I am by being put in a fucking box. But when you aren't indigenous to the earth, when you aren't natural to the earth, you aren't indigenous or natural to the cosmos. And not being indigenous to the cosmos doesn't allow you to be tapped into the actual wave and language of frequency. Fuck your English, my nigga. We're talking frequency.
Tone.
Same tone, same key of E. Same key of E. 40.5 hertz carbon.
What do you mean by tone?
See, what do you mean by tone? We were just telling you about the tone in the last drop because we were talking what? Color. We were really talking you, but we were talking color, my nigga. We talking about your essence, the image, the spectrum, the ghost, the specter, the phantom, the gas, which is the chaos, the primordial essence.
Let's see.
It looks like a box. It looks like a straight box.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't show that hydrogen has the same tone as carbon.
What do you mean by tone?
Same tone, same key of E. Same key of E. 40.5 hertz. The next one would be like 81 hertz. You go to silicon, it will double up and would be 162 hertz. You'll go to cobalt and it'll be 324 hertz. It's take the angles of incidence or the tones that they create, their color.
The angles of incidence, otherwise, where the spiral connects to the joining or the other side of this processing spiral. Angles, or other words, angels. Right? Angles of light are just angels of light. Y'all already know this. Continue to surf the wave, my niggas. Let's go. Let's get it. I mean, come on, man. It should not be this hard, right? But again, this is for the real ones, man. We in the month of May. That means we are in the month of able, to be able. I am able. Let's speak our intentions in a positive fashion. I am able. You get what's going on? I am able. Hawa, hawa.
like 81 hertz. You go to silicon, it will double up and will be 162 hertz. You'll go to cobalt and it'll be 324 hertz. It's take the angles of incidence or the tones that they create, their color. Like you can turn color back into sound based upon, it's the same wavelength, it's just twice as long or much longer. So all you have to do is keep dividing light by 2. You keep dividing light by 2 and you'll ultimately get back to the audible sound of it because there.
And that's exactly what we were talking about in our last presentation. I was showing you the conductors, right? And what does a conductor do? Direct. Now, conductor is a director of what? Sound. But, seeing this video kind of lets me know that drop went over your heads. Because I know you guys probably saw a conductor in music and didn't know what I was talking about. Right? But if you're talking about class and if you want to talk about the expressing of true power, wow, how else to do so than by the creativity and the formation of music that is sound, the unification of harmony, the expression of vibration itself. And we're talking at a classy level, of the highest esteem, of self-esteem, of build. I'm not trying to kick you no fugazi. I'm not trying to have you out here imagining BS, man. We really have power, and it's right now we're supposed to be fighting for it. That's what's going on. The fight for our power, our culture is going down. We are getting hit with waves and waves and waves and influxes of immigrants from all walks of life. Shabata. If we don't get this right now, we are lost to the sauce as a collective. And how strong am I without you, Shabata? How strong am I without my tribe? I want y'all to be cedars, big shining cedars out here. Hey, how tall the cedars, man? I want you to be big cedars, big cedar energy out here. You see what's going on? This is exactly where we touched on all of this. I got this on my community post right now. Go look it up when I introduce our last drop. I got this on my post right now. I'm trying to tell y'all. Natural got AHA for the tribe, man. And this is a wonderful time, right? Getting back to the tone, to the frequency. We're going to see how color has a sound, has a frequency. Elements have a sound, have a frequency that can be turned back. We talked about this. What stars are the singing waters of the deep. We talked about this 2 years ago. Where you been, my nigga? We talked about this 2 years ago. Where you been? Where you been? Where you been? But I get it, cause natural, when natural says it, it's maybe the first time you're hearing it. Maybe he's saying it in a fashion that isn't maybe simple enough. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But you should definitely know by now. We've been discussing this for years. Check the content, check the channel for years.
Wavelength is just twice as long or much longer. So all you have to do is keep dividing light by 2. You keep dividing light by 2 and you'll ultimately get back to the audible sound of it, because there was a relationship between light and color, sound and tone, matter and shape. Walter Russell's periodic table that he put together. Now you compare that to Mendeleev's periodic table and you'll see something completely different. It's unwinding.
Whoa.
And you see there's a relationship that hydrogen.
So see, he said it's unwinding, right? We're talking about a spiral, right? You only unwind that which is spiraled up. So we're talking about a revelation, a revealing, an uncoil, because it was coiled up. Now we're uncoiling it, right? A detanglement. Come on, man. All of these things are, it's a part of your process, right? You know what it means to detangle your hair, to unravel your hair. You know what that means. We're talking spiral, right? Let's get it.
So you had figured this out at a young age?
I had already seen this. This was all inside of that palace. I had access to it, and I knew the relationship.
You saw this in dreams?
I saw.
See, he said he had access to that palace. Y'all should know what palace he's talking about, right? He's talking about that crystal palace, man. He's not playing with you. Right? Man said he remembered coming out the womb, man. He remembered being in the womb. Saw his hand and was like, oh, that's my friend. Come on, man. Come on, man. You know what time we in right now? This is the year of the dragon, baby. Let's go.
Access to it, and I knew the relationship.
You saw this in dreams?
I saw it as a circle. Everything was a full circle laid out, and each area was just expanding, like wrapping a rag around your hand. The first wrap, it's so tight. This is how I saw it more so, but as a vortex. You'll see there's a relationship.
Keep in mind, he said as a vortex. We're going to touch on that further on in the drop. But keep in mind, he said vortex, right? Because we've already touched on that negative space, right? When we're talking about the shrimp, the imploding bubble that created a star-like implosion. Keep this in mind, okay?
Between hydrogen.
Keep in mind, that's what he said.
Around your hand. The first wrap, it's so tight. This is how I saw it more so, but as a vortex, you'll see there's a relationship between hydrogen, carbon, silicon, cobalt, rhodium.
Hydrogen and carbon. Now, if hydrogen is from that Big Bang, just float with me, right? We're talking about the sound. The sound, get out of the mind of a hijack. We're talking about the sound. So if hydrogen is from that sound and carbon is related to hydrogen and you are the carbon personified, my nigga, what does that say about you? What does this say about you? Why you think he's tying in carbon? Carbon. Let's stop playing, man. Where's your quartz vision? I hope you're tuning up. I hope your DNA's tuning up. I hope your DNA is crystallizing right now, man. Because I'm speaking to you. I'm going to talk to you like this, my nigga. I'm going to talk to you like this. You got to understand, from here on out, I'm going to talk to you like this. Hey, how to the loved ones, man.
They're all bonded. They're all as the middle point between two noble gases. So those things don't really exist. It's only one substance. Now, the problem is, the first thing that we're able to perceive is hydrogen. That's the first visible element, because before it is too dense for us to perceive it. You understand what I'm saying? As you reach into the next octave, the carbon octave, and they call that a bisexual tone, because the carbon has two tones to it. It has a negative side and a positive side. The part where lithium behaves, lithium is contractive. Beryllium is contractive. Boron is contractive, but the moment you get to carbon, you balance it out. Gets to a perfect balance of plus and minus 4.
You heard what he said? When you get to carbon, it's a perfect balance. You are the perfect balance, my nigga. Aren't you the carbon? Aren't you the carbon rich? Don't they say you carbon? Come on, man. You are the balance, my nigga, in genetic form. And everyone else that's deciding to choose up and crystallize in these latter times, right? If you're about that jump, right? You really want to jump into the fifth dimension. You truly wish to evolve, right? Energy. You want to revolution your energy. Let's go. This is the time. But you got to be able to choose up with the real ones, man. To the rare breeds, man. We got to be able to choose up with the real ones, man. And we're talking carbon. If you're going to be stuck on some caveman mentality, and you want to continue to put our elements in a box, fuck that. You know what I'm saying? We about to spiral out. Cause I told you last video, I'm gonna spiral left on you. I'm talking California politics, man. I'm gonna go left on you. You know what I'm saying? We not trying to be contained and put into any one thing, you know? Hey, hop to the real ones.
As you reach into the next octave, the carbon octave, and they call that a bisexual tone because the carbon has two tones to it. It has a negative side and a positive side. The part where lithium behaves,
Again, we're talking about elements. These elements don't have genders. So what he's referring to by the bisexual statement is the fact that they come in feminine and masculine principle. And this is what I mean. He will say certain things, but won't give the true detail. He won't correlate how all of this is encoded in our genetics as so-called carbon-rich, melanin-rich people. So-called black, so-called indigenous Aboriginal Americans. That Negro that has been cursed by his opposer. Right? His opposer has cursed him. He's not going to tell you how all of this correlates to that because he has to play Sambo for his interview. If he was to really fry these niggas the way they supposed to be, he'd sound like your man's right now. He would sound like Natural by Law, letting you know there is a separation when it comes to this shit because we are the ether personified. And until any one of these people tell you that, it's all hogwash, man. It's all hogwash, man. He want to tell you that the earth ain't flat, but won't kick you the signs as maybe the ether, what they refer to as space, is all sound. It's a gigantic speaker out there. You know, we know that the firmament, the plane, was beat flat into submission. We saw how the shrimp mimicked the power of the Most High. That violent commotion that caused this implosion of a star. We witnessed this. But until someone like them tell you this, it's all for naught. So this is why you surf the wave right here with 432 Drop Nation. You know what I'm saying? This is why you here with us right now, man. Surfing the wave. We on the ether bus. Shout out to the ether squad. You know what I'm saying? Fifth wave. It's time to try back up. You know what I mean? We tribing up for the fifth wave. Let's get it.
contractive. Beryllium is contractive. Boron is contractive, but the moment you get to carbon, you balance it out. Gets to a perfect balance of plus and minus 4. So it's a double tone. Nitrogen is -3, oxygen is -2, fluorine is -1. Now the balance of this, all of those are mates. Fluorine and lithium naturally mate. If you have
You see what's going on? He's showing how the elements mate, man. Mate. There's a synergy happening, which is why we now see the arithmetic, because the secret of light is what? Love. And what happens when you're in love with your opposite? You mate. You see what's going on? Do you see what's going on? This is why that shit of a box don't work for us, Ak. It ain't gonna work for us, Ak, because you can't put us in no box. You cannot put the Ruach in a box, Ak. It's not gonna happen. Stop it. Just stop it. Just stop it. Just stop it. You're gonna make me spaz out. Stop it.
have lithium bonded with any other element, the moment that fluorine is introduced, it's plus and -4. So it's a double tone. Nitrogen is -3, oxygen is -2, fluorine is -1. Now the balance of this, all of those are mates. Fluorine and lithium naturally mate. If you have lithium bonded with any other element, the moment that fluorine is introduced, it will break all bonds violently so it can bond with fluorine. Same thing with beryllium and oxygen. That's why it said, and what they've tried to keep from us, if you want to break water into its component parts of hydrogen and oxygen, all you have to do is introduce beryllium or the sound of beryllium, and oxygen will violently break away from any other thing, even hydrogen, to bond with that beryllium.
A-hop to that, man. What a beautiful flow, Shabata. If you charged up the way that I'm charged up, we're going to go ahead and continue with this beautiful flow. Because we just got what we needed to know. So let go. So as we were able to get from that little snippet, right? He was expressing the arithmetic pattern of the expression of light through love. And each octave is a sound pocket, right? And that sound pocket gives the flow to each angle of light. So for every angle, you see how there's an S, it's supposed. If you look at this properly, you can see that it's breathing. And that's exactly what he was trying to express, is that the universe breathes. And Natural has told you this, I don't know how many times. Right? We got the drop on the channel. But this is what he was expressing. Alright, so there's a connection between this flow of light and rhythm. And that is love. Ahab. And no one's talking about it. No one's telling you that the secret of light is Ahab. Alright. Talking big spirals. Alright, you see what's going on? Big spirals. Alright, spirals. This is life, and this is how life looks. When you're looking at a newborn, that newborn is in this position. When you're looking at the Fibonacci shell of perfection, it looks like this. Even though I don't even want to refer to it as the Fibonacci spiral anymore, because even in that, it's some hijack, as I mentioned in the last drop. But we're talking about that spiral. For all my, throwback wave surfers, they remember when I made this post on the IG. It's still up there. You go surf the wave, right? But it was in this graph that I found. Now, I didn't know this was Russell's work, because I didn't read any particular books from Russell. I was surfing the wave and I'm flowing with my research, and my research points me to this, and I found this graph some time ago and I shared it because I realized what was being said. And what was being said was that we have a positive force, right? And we have a negative force, and they're cohesive. They have to coincide with one another. All right? They're two peas in a pod. And in order to generate the energy, you gotta have the both. It says positive electricity is force generated against pressure resistance. Positive intensity increases with contraction due to pressure resistance in streams flowing in opposite directions. Positive electricity is the accumulating, absorbing, and endothermic force of contraction which seeks higher pressure. Okay, so that's for the positive electricity. Then you got the negative electricity, which is a force radiated, all right? Radiated in the direction of pressure assistance. Negative intensity decreases with expansion due to pressure assistance in streams flowing in same direction. Negative electricity is the dissipating, separating exothermic force of expansion which seeks lower pressure. So we're talking about a breathing in and a breathing out. That's what contractions are, right? Contract and expand, contract and expand, contract and expand. That's birth. This is the natural womb man. You know, this is how I got to the realization that the matrix was ours, man, as natural original people. That Stargate through our natural womb man, the woman. All right. Positive, negative flow. The magnetic flow. You see what's going on? Positive electricity flows, negative electricity flows. Bam. Right? You have contraction. You see it? You have the contraction, which is the positive, and you have the expansion, which is the negative. This is inhalation, inhalation and exhalation, all right? The cosmic pendulum. It's just flowing, boom. And this is explained in what a pendulum is, right? A pendulum moves off the ether. That's what the purpose of a pendulum is. It's to pick up the energy of the ether as it sways. Right? If you're not trying to get a sense of a spirit, you're just testing the ether. Alright, because Natural's been telling you about this, man. Matter of fact, we're gonna go ahead and check that out. So let's continue. Ahab. Alright, so here we're gonna check out this drop dealing with emissions, absorption, and spectra. And if you picking up from our last drop, if you were able to watch that and you went ahead and gave that a thumbs up, you flung with it, you should know what we're talking about right now. We're talking spectra, right? Spectrum. This is why we touched on it, because now you can see all of this is related, man. So let's peep out this little presentation and let's see what drop we get. Hey, hop to the real ones.
Hi, it's Mr. Anderson, and this is AP Physics Essentials Video 86. It's on emission and absorption spectra. If we were to take a gas like hydrogen and put it in a discharge chamber and shoot electrons at it, it's going to give off light that looks like this. If we were to analyze that light, if we were to split it in a prism, it would look like this. So instead of being a rainbow of light, we're going to get these discrete units of light, or these discrete photons that are carrying discrete amounts of energy. And this was puzzling to scientists for a long time. We could also shine light through that discharge chamber and parts of it would be absorbed. And so this would be the absorption spectra. So most of the light would make through, but some of it isn't going to make it through. And this puzzled scientists for a long time until Niels Bohr finally figured it out. And what's happening, if we look at a hydrogen just in the first two energy levels, is that as the electron goes around the atom, as it jumps to a lower...
Now keep this in mind, right? This is the exact example that he's kicking, because the way I was able to piece this up just by surfing the wave with y'all was so cold. I mean, when I tell you I caught them dead in they step, you know what I'm saying? I just sat back and gave it up to Hawa, man. And I'm so thankful, Tawada, to the max, that I got a tribe like y'all to share the wave with, man. Hey,
the right color of photon. So let's shine on it the right color of photon, let's say a red photon. Watch what happens when it hits that electron. It jumps to a higher energy level. Other colors, it's not going to do anything to have to. Jumps to a lower energy for a long time until Niels Bohr finally figured it out. And what's happening, if we look at a hydrogen just in the first two energy levels, is that as the electron goes around the atom, as it jumps to a lower energy level, it's going to give off a photon of light. And for it to move up to that other energy or that higher energy level, it's going to have to absorb a photon. And so there are discrete colors of light that are required for it to jump up. And as it jumps down, it's going to release these discrete colors of light as well. If you hit it with other colors, it's not going to do anything. It doesn't have the right amount of energy. And so this is conservation of energy. Conservation of energy in an atom or in a nuclei when it absorbs a photon. So we call that absorption. And so what does that mean? The amount of energy in the photon and the atom or nuclei before absorption is equal to the amount of energy inside the atom or nuclei after absorption. And same thing applies with emission. And so as we give off that photon, energy is conserved. The amount of energy we had in the atom or the nuclei before is equal to both the photon and atom or nuclei after. Now this is really valuable in science because we could look at what's being given off, so we can look at the spectra of emissions from any kind of element or molecule, and it tells us what elements are going to be found inside it if we know what those energy levels are. And so if you know anything about visible light, it's all the colors of the spectrum. So as we shine it in a prism, as it moves through the glass, different wavelengths of light are going to travel at different speeds, and so it's going to split it into this spectrum. Now, know this, that on the red side, there's a part of the spectrum that we can't see, that's infrared light, and there's going to be UV light on the other side, and we're just seeing that visible spectrum that's going to be right in the middle. And so if we look at those energy level diagrams, for example, in a hydrogen atom, if we were to hit it with the right color of photon, so let's shine on it the right color of photon, let's say a red photon, watch what happens when it hits that electron. It jumps to a higher energy level. Now let's say it falls down to a lower energy level. What kind of color is going to be given off from that electron? It's going to be that red photon again. But what happens if we hit it with a green photon, for example, and it doesn't have the right color, doesn't have the right energy? It's never going to be able to move. Let's say we hit it with a yellow photon. What does it do? Again, nothing. And so these atoms are being bombarded by different colors of photons, but it has to be the right color. Let's say it's the right purple color. What's going to happen? It's going to jump to a higher energy level. What happens as it falls down to that ground state? It's going to give off that same exact.
And what does it sound like? I mean, this absorption and this processing of energy, what does it sound like? Again, we talked about this several times, so I'm not going to even mention it right now. But what does it sound like, right? I'll bring it back real quick. Just what does it sound like?
Let's shine on it the right color of photon, let's say a red photon. Watch what happens when it hits that electron. It jumps to a higher energy level. Now let's say it falls down to a lower energy level. What kind of color is going to be given off from that electron? It's going to be that red photon again. But what happens if we hit it with a green photon, for example, and it doesn't have the right color, doesn't have the right energy? It's never going to be able to move. Let's say we hit it with a yellow photon. What does it do? Again, nothing. And so these atoms are being bombarded by different colors of photons, but it has to be the right color. Let's say it's the right purple color. What's going to happen? It's going to jump to a higher energy level. What happens as it falls down to that ground state? It's going to give off that same exact photon. So you can model this. This is a pt.3 simulation. What I'm going to do is take one hydrogen atom, put it in a discharge chamber. I'm going to use a cathode ray to hit it with an electron and watch what happens. It gets high energy, and as it falls back down, it gives off a certain color of photon. Now, if I were to hit it with not just one electron, but a continuous stream of electrons, before it's able to fall down again, it's giving off different colors of photons. So we're getting all these different colors of photons, and you can see on the spectrum on the bottom of this page, it's kind of plotting what color those photons are. So now let's do multiple atoms. Let's do a bunch of atoms. We're going to hit those with a continuous stream. And so what's happening is they're all at different energy levels. And so if we were to plot the average of all of those photons that are being given off, that's going to be that purple color we get. But if you were to do a spectrogram on it, you could see on the bottom that we're getting those bars. Now, way to the right, we've got the infrared. Way to the left is the UV. But you can see those four spectral bars that I just talked about a second ago. Now let's say it's not hydrogen in the middle. So this is going to be a hydrogen spectrum here. I've sped up the simulation. So we're getting those bars. But let's say we change it to mercury. What are we going to get? Totally different electron, totally different energy levels. And so we're going to get different color. This is what sodium would look like. This is what neon would look like. And so when you look at a neon light and it gives that reddish color, it's the sum of all those different photons that are being given off from that neon gas. And so did you learn to describe emission? Again, that's what's given off.
All right. So again, what gives off the energy that it absorbs? Well, you're going to find out right now if you don't know. All right. So, A-Hop to the real ones. Appreciate y'all for still tagging along. I hope you enjoying the ether ride thus far. On to the next. Alright, so as you can see, we about to surf the wave on this joint. This was the black body ether, the true Ethiopians of the firmament. Alright, and as you can see, this was done 4 years ago. Alright, and I was telling you guys that we were the ether personified, and I actually, brought evidences of my thought process into play and shared them with the tribe. And this wave took off amazing, as you can see. We were definitely talking about this though. You know what I'm saying? Like I mentioned earlier, we realized that the sun is mostly hydrogen and that hydrogen is the water gene, the gene of water. So the sun is primarily water. And seeing how we watched that bubble increase with heat and we were seeing everything happen the way that it did, we can now understand how if the sun was a bubble or a drop of water in a heavenly abode, how it would be able to actually give off the energy that it does, right? Here we're going to see a little bit more into this absorption detail that we were looking at, right? And keep in mind, what were chemicals? Right? They were elements. So these elements were chemicals. So let's see how we tied in this absorption of chemical back then. Let's surf the wave. A-Hop to the real ones. Really tough right now, right? Because we're talking about the sun containing water, which really should be a smack in the face. That's really an oxymoron when you think about it, right? And how many people actually give that a kind of thought on their daily, life, on their daily routine? Not many, right? So we're gonna carry on, into the next tab, and we're gonna really break this down and get into the cream of it. All right, so let's see what we got. Peace. So speaking on all of this hydrogen, all of this light from the sun, if you know the way the supernaturalist works, I automatically thought of melanin. And here we have this article, right? The unsuspected capacity of melanin to transform light energy into chemical energy. Stop. The unsuspected capacity of melanin to transform light energy into chemical energy. Or, in other words, elemental energy. How to transform light or photonic energy into elemental energy, my nigga. Your melanin is the absorber of the function to do such a thing. Just as we got back in that video before we jumped into this, right? They're talking about the absorption and the emission of energy. Your melanin does that exactly, with fine tuning to the T. You know what I'm saying? We can't make this stuff up, man. We did this years ago, but let's go. Carry on. Let's go. All right. So let's see what we got. Peace. So speaking on all of this hydrogen, all of this light from the sun, if you know the way the supernaturalist works, you know I automatically thought of melanin. And here we have this article, right? The unsuspected capacity of melanin to transform light energy into chemical energy. All right. And that's all I had to bring you here for. Just to show you that your melanin is capable of transferring or transforming that light energy, that energy from the sun, into chemical or elemental energy. All right, Shabata. So if you want the rest of this drop, I mean, we touched on this 4 years ago. Go ahead and get it. Black Body Ether, the True Ethiopians of the Firmament Part 2. I got a whole playlist on the channel. Go ahead and, jack that, man, because we on, right? We cooking on something, and I'm getting confident with the smell of things, if you know what I mean. So we're gonna go ahead and press on. So here I wanted to bring your attention to this article called "The Sounds of Elements," right? A conversion of atomic spectral light. Now, remember what I was telling you, keep in mind the spectra, right? Because again, we're right back into that. A conversion of atomic spectral light data into sound. Like I said, I was going to call this part 3, but I didn't want to harness on the racial connotation or aspect to this. I wanted to just dive straight into the energy and us explain discharge from the inside out. Whoever gets this, whoever doesn't. It don't matter what you look like. This is about if you're up here with it, right? If it's cutting on upstairs. Listening to light. As far as we currently understand our universe and everything in it is made of vibration. 2 of these vibrations are sound, which is mechanical, and light, which is electromagnetic. These are of great importance to us as humans because our eyes are designed to see the visible spectrum of light, while our ears and bodies are designed to hear and feel sound within a certain range. These ranges are but a small part of the songs of the universe. So see, continuing on from stars of the songs of the deep, this is lining straight up with that, right? In comparison to sound, light is a much faster vibration. The product of light is made possible by the movement of electrons of an atom. Atoms consist of a center nucleus surrounded by orbits of electrons that spread out from lower to higher energy. Light is emitted when electrons transition from an orbit of higher energy to an orbit of lower energy. See how we was able to form and put that together from the video we just watched, right? The periodic table of elements represents the wall between the atomic and quantum world. This is where our universe is separated into single atoms. Each of these atoms emit light of very specific frequencies. Much like a fingerprint can identify a person, an atom spectra can identify an element. Very interesting now that we have spectra and specters and elements meaning the same, right? This is how we are able to determine which elements are present in faraway stars and to know if there is water on the moon or Mars. And keep in mind, if you don't know what a star is right now, go back and get the drop before this one, please. And go ahead and take that lesson and then jump back into this one so you know what's happening. Alright? By converting hundreds of an element's spectral frequencies into sound and lowering that sound down about 40 octaves, we can hear a sonic representation of the spectral fingerprint of an atom. Alright, so let's get an example. So right here, we're gonna go ahead and take a sound. A preview of the sound of oxygen. Let's see how oxygen sounds. Right. Let's see what this vibration of oxygen is. So fair warning, we're gonna play some frequencies, some vibrations. If the pitch happens to be a bit loud, you might want to adjust here before we continue. Hey, out to the loved ones. All right, so that was the vibration of oxygen, and just kicking back, letting it do its thing. I felt a very calm, soothing, relaxing, a very pleasant calmness. It was pretty relaxing. We're gonna go ahead and check out another one. Okay, so maybe we can check out, this is gold. Let's see how this gold looks, right? Gold. Let's see what's happening right here. Alright, so that was the sound of gold, man. It's pretty interesting, right? These different sounds and pitches, these elements would technically have if this was spot on. Let's check out nitrogen, and then we'll carry on to the next one. A-ha. Alright, so that was nitrogen. That one didn't really have much an effect that I was able to pick up. Maybe in my headphones and the AirPods it would have been different, but I didn't really pick up anything on that. And basically this was just an example on how these elements generate and give off their vibrations, which can be packaged back into sound. Alright? And all of these elements are ranges and variations of colors and light. Please keep that in mind. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get on to our next phase so we can go ahead and get up out of here. Man, wow, this was a beautiful flow. Definitely appreciate everyone that's tapped in so far. If you enjoyed this build, go ahead and let us know. You know what I'm saying? Let us know right now. Throw some fire emojis somewhere, you know what I'm saying? Some volcano emojis, some feathers, something. But pop off for a con right now, man. We getting lit. Let's get to the next one. So now that we're getting back to this dude that made the periodic table, let's take a look at some of his quotes, right? It says, when the elements are arranged in vertical columns according to the increasing atomic weight so that the horizontal lines contain analogous elements, again, according to increasing atomic weight, an arrangement of results from which several general conclusions may be drawn. All right, now, him structuring these elements according to their weight is him trying to uphold this theory of gravity. Keep in mind, this is how these guys work, right? They're a society of dogmatic practitioners that have to, design and uphold their illusion. And so they have to manipulate views and perspectives with one another without stepping on the other one's toes, but being congruent with them at the very same time. Because what he just said in this is that due to the weight, he stacked them up on top of each other. So if that is the case, you got something of pressure sitting on top of you in a cage, in a box, right? You're in a box. This guy got you in a box. And that should go a lot to his kind, right? Those that think like him. Here it is. He's saying it is the function of science to discover the existence of a general reign of order in nature and to find the causes governing this order. And this refers in equal measure to the relations of man, social and political, and to the entire universe as a whole. So it's very interesting that this dude is telling you he chooses to use science to discover the existence of the general reign of order in nature, which is the laws of Hawa. So they use their science to find the laws of Hawa. And then they find the causes governing this order. So then they want to know who's governing this, right? So they know what they're doing when they go and search for these things and then go ahead and classify it to potentially shape the world. They're trying to find the evidence of God so that they can dispel it, disprove it. That is impossible. And it's channels like these, like this one, that kind of show you why and how. We will always do, as long as that Ruach surges and charges through my being. Because when we're talking about the ether, we're talking about the heavens, the brighter, purer air, the sky. Again, we see the fifth element, or the divine element within the soul. Y'all see that? A divine element in the human soul. We're talking ether. What was Terrance Howard talking about? The ether. What was he trying to prove? The ether. What was he destroying gravity with? The ether. What is gravity ether said to be? Dark matter. The dark energy. I was telling you last video where we get together to tap into your dark energy. Can you see why now? We're talking the divine element in the human soul. 5 elements, right? Ether, spaces, pure potential, infinite possibilities. Now, when we were looking at that video, he had the example, right, with the protons swinging around and chasing and all that, right? That's the ether. They're talking about the ether, family. They're talking about the ether in a way they don't want us to plug into it. Because there's a deeper message behind you being the Etherean. This racism, maybe this should be part 3, huh? Maybe this should be part 3, huh? Because the racism behind this is very, very magnified. There's a reason why they switched up your DNA chromosome pattern. Right? There's a reason why this tree of life grid only gives us 10 spheres, 10 energy centers, when we have access to 12 and more. Why are they hijacking us with only 10 focal grids, man? 10 focus points. When we're digging on the ether. Why do they want to put us in the box if we know we're elementals of the ether? Why would they want to put us in a box? Why don't they want to just let us spiral and flow, Shabbatah? Is it a crime to be the personified ether? Unless we're talking galactic laws, huh? You see what's going on? What is the 9 ether? Alright, and if you a religious fanatic, right, you trying to go to a church, you trying to get on your knees and surrender and fold up, this ain't for you. You know what I'm saying? If you feeling quite different because we choose not to speak with aggression. You know, when you use words like Yah, the pronunciation of the term Yah coming out the mouth is filled with regression. We were put on game about what comes out your mouth and having true intention. Isn't that how we started this drop? So when you speak with certain words, the formation of the vibration entails if it's positive or negative. Right? Think of any word that makes your teeth grit, like Yah, the pronunciation, Yah, the formation your mouth makes to say such a word, to perform such a sound, is an aggression. Right? When a dog snarls and growls, what are they showing? Teeth. To say that word, you have to what? Show teeth. You're talking aggression. Now, if you're using this name to praise the Creator, why would it be in the energy of aggression? When you hit the Hawa, it's a different vibration. It's just something that you should ponder, right? The nine ether. Nine ether is the highest of all spiritual powers, activated through nature and the hormones of the human Elohim, manifesting 9 to the 9th power of 9, which is the highest of supreme mathematics. As seen in our hair texture, the number 9 is a symbol of birth. We have a natural curl in our hair that shapes like a 9. We, the Elohim, lost our spiritual powers long ago when we interfered to change our 9 ether sheep like woolly hair to emulate the 6 ether goat like straight hair of Azazel, the fallen one, another name for Samael. Which is very interesting because this is how we start to get into them archons. Right? So there was a galactic law broken, and that was the emulation or the ingenuity of this 6 ether being. Alright, and it's because of this development that we got our DNA tampered with as well, so that we don't remember our connection back to that ether. Because they don't want us being who we used to be. They don't want us being who we used to be. They're terrified of who we used to be. And quite frankly, so should we. We should be afraid of who we used to be too. Right? This brings back Kang. Right? The character of Kang. How he was afraid of all of his possibilities, right? So seeing how we're connected to the 9 ether, to the ether 9 by hair, okay? I don't want to hear no accusations if you weren't there. If you wasn't there, if you weren't there, if you haven't done the dedicated research to understand the Elohim mean multiple Elohim mean multiple. So if you wasn't there, and if you're still fighting on to this singularity, and you're all masculine, no ama, no mama, no big mama, then you're a homunculus. That's what you are. You're a homunculus, right? You believe in the creation of life without Amma, without mom, without mama, without Sophia Stewart, man. You don't want the Oracle. You want Smurfs. And that's not natural, my nigga. Proof of the field. The 0 point field, also known as the quantum vacuum, or what spiritualists refer to as the Akashic or etheric field. This is that castle, right? That palace that Terrance Howard was talking about. The Akashic or the etheric records. It is a subtle sea of fluctuating energies that give rise to all things in existence. 0 point energy is supreme consciousness. It is explained by scientific phenomenon like the Kashmir effect. And that's very interesting because those who remember Yisrael redemption, she tied the Kashmir, she attached and connected the Kashmir to Shem. She said Kashmir was Shem. So the Kashmir or the Shem effect, entanglement and non-locality. This is the field of all fields in the universe. All matter in the universe is interconnected by waves, and the interference patterns of these waves coordinate the activities of consciousness. The human body has an electromagnetic field that holds countless fields generated by every organ and cell in the body, also acquiring input from the 0 point field at large. Everything in the cosmos is connected, and you are a product of vastly intelligent energetic exchange. And that's a beautiful flow right there. Right? So Terrance Howard was able to tap into these Akashic records, into that etheric plane, his etheric memory, and realize that when he was 6 months in his mom's womb, that his friend, his very good friend, was his hand. And once you tap into that Akashic record, right? We're talking Jacob, Hawakol transition into Yasharala, right? Or Yashara. We're talking Hawakol. Right? Harushalayim, Hawakol to Harushalayim. All right. That's a transformation of energy, of powwow. He went from Jacob to Israel, the land of Peniel. Jacob's ladder. Like, let's stop playing, man. We're talking 0 point energy. You see what's going on? 0 point energy. Right? 0 point energy. Terrance Howard was talking about a type of energy hitting them in the head. Right? Hitting them from the head on down. He was talking about expanding and contracting. Expanding and contracting. The art of breathing. The art of sex, the art of reproduction, that is life. Releasing the energy from the first centers to the brain. Body becomes a magnet by running a current up the spine to produce an electromagnetic field. You see what's going on? 0 point energy. We talking about you, my nigga. right? Now look how this is broken down. The right side is the masculine, the left side is the feminine. The right side masculine is the doing, the belief. The left side, or the feminine, is the receiving and the trust. We start from the bottom. We have feet, which is understanding of self, life, and others. And we have our skin, how we present ourselves. We have our ankles, the inflexibility in dealing with life or an issue. And we have a skeletal system which structures or supports of that life. We have the shins, which are the standards in life, breaking down ideals. Excuse me, Shalaki. We have a muscular system, which is resistance to new experience. Whole body systems and organs. This is the first chakra. Right? We got pride and ego changing the self-image here at the knees. The bladder, we have a fear of letting go, right? The fear of letting go. The fingers are the details of life. The hands is the handling of life's experience. The genitals are the creativity or our fear of own worth. The ovaries, of course, are the femininity aspects, and the testes being the masculinity aspects. The fear of life is in the appendix. The rectum is the ability to let go of the past, fighting against what everything in us was working for. We have the hips, right, which is the fear of moving forward. We have the small intestines, which is assimilating or absorbing and integrating what is needed. This is the second chakra, right? Powers of relationships and sexuality, creativity. The first chakra was the tribal power, safety, and security. So like I told you from the last drop, we have to build from the ground up. We're talking foundation. Your power comes from your foundation. How you stand is foundation. Your third chakra is your personal chakra. Excuse me, we got the large intestines, which holding on to the past ability to move out what is no longer needed. Upper portion in the third chakra, all right, the large intestines. The third chakra we have here is personal power, self-esteem, and trust. So the liver is the victimization, powerlessness. The kidneys are holding old emotions and shame, and the gallbladder is your rage. So for those of you who get angry, watch out for the gallbladders, all right? You don't want them stones. Okay, them kidney stones holding on to emotions and shame get you clogged up, all right? Your stomach is digesting the ideas to begin assimilating. This is why they say sit and think on it, right? Your pancreas is the ability to process the sweetness or joy in life. And your spleen is your obsession. Okay, now we're into the fourth chakra, which is the power of love or emotion. And we have the breasts, which are the ability to self-nourish over and overprotective attitude. Okay. We have the heart, which is the ability to receive or give love, intimacy. And we have the diaphragm, feeling unprotected. We also have the shoulders, which is life is a burden. You feel the pressure on your shoulders. You have the thymus, which is where you feel attacked by life. You have the lungs, which is the ability to take in life. And you have arms, which is the holding of life's experiences. We have the fifth chakra moving up to the power of will, the decision making. All right. Our teeth shows decisiveness, taking in new ideas or nourishment. repressed words, opinions, and emotions for the throat. All right. The neck is flexibility, and the thyroid is humiliation. Okay. Next, we have the sixth chakra, which is the power of the mind, the adequacy, and the truth. All right. For the sixth chakra, we have eyes, which is the capacity to see clearly. We have the pituitary gland, which is the control. And then we have nose, which is the self-recognition and self-worth. Also, for the sixth chakra, we have the pineal gland, which is the sense of purpose and meaning of life. The ears is the capacity to hear. So the pineal gland is the spiritual connection with God. Again, we just got to talking about Hawakob. Okay? Hawakob. So the pineal gland has to be in the same essence connected to that permeating all inclusive energy known as this dark energy or ether. Dealing with the seventh chakra, we're talking about the spiritual connection to oneness. And for the right masculine side, we have the head, resisting the flow of life, sexual fears, overthinking, refusing responsibility for self. And the brain is the overthinking stubbornness. Right? And here this makes up you. Right? Where beliefs affect your anatomy. So this is why you want to be strong. You want to be strong in what you believe, and you want to know what you feel. All right. Again, we're talking frequency, man. We're talking elements. These colors are element. We're talking about the colored man, the elemental. We're talking the etherian. All right. You see how we break down the fingers. So we have the earth, which is the pinky. And the earth pinky is connected to your heart. The water, which is your ring finger, it will be the kidneys. Then you have the fire, which is your middle finger, that going to the intestines. You have air, which is your index finger, it leads to the lungs. And then you have thumb, which is your ether, and that accesses to the brain, as we just summarized, right? Get to know yourself, my nigga. If you do nothing else, surfing the wave of natural by law, get to know yourself. Hawa. All right, so here we have the reiteration of what we were digging on. Right, the digging of opposites and the difference between man's cosmology. Positive, negative, there are no such effects in nature as negative change or charge. And negatively charged particles, electricity, is nature's sex force. Right? In comparison to the Most High's cosmology, you have red and blue, and in between that space is the zero. So in between the red and blue, or the positive and negative, you have your zero. Right? You have the male for the red, and you have the female for the blue. You have man's magnet, right? In man's cosmology, these are magnetic lines of force. There are no magnetic lines of force in nature. In God's magnet, you have, in God's cosmology, you have electric dividers of stillness into curved planes of equipotential electrical pressures. All motion is either for sex division or sex union. Gravitation unites, radiation divides. Electricity creates life by dividing stillness into two-way motion. It creates death by rest from motion. Isn't that interesting? Death is rest from motion. As soon as you're no longer moving, you're dead. That's crazy. So you see, we have the masculine and feminine aspect to all life, even in the ether. So all this gender war nonsense is unnatural, which is no different than homosexuality experiences. Right? To despise the opposite gender just for them being the opposite gender is no different than being a homosexual. And that is not natural. Here we have the atom, which equals Adam. The atom being a thought, a word. A word is a sound vibrates. Vibration is energy. Energy glows. Glowing is light. Light being Eve, the coming of light. God said, let there be light, and there was light. Lucifer means the light bringer, Eve. We'll be able to touch on this Lucifer nonsense, right? Especially if we're talking about bearing or the bringer of light. Because religious folks, again, will be poisoning the drop from here on out. You'll see. Alright? The 9 represents the something from nothing. The L in Eve, or the 11, right? Is Yehovah producing what you see behind is what? Chemical energy. Alright, and that chemical energy they say is the ether. Alright, this is not the star of Raphan, this is the ether, the elemental quintessence, right? Quintessence, excuse me. The quintessence. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're building on. Masculine, feminine principle united, meshed as one. No hijack. Alright? It is true. It is totally 100% true. Nearly all the elements in the human body were made in a star. Alright? AKA sun. It was made in a star, aka sun, and may have come through several supernovas, several explosions. Alright, and peep the elements. Right? Peep the elements within the body. Most of the elements that make up the human body were formed in stars. So if the body itself doesn't resemble a box, why do they put the very elements that create you into a box? These niggas are constantly trying to lock you up. You see what's going on? Their life's work is to lock you up. Shabbatah, peep it. Where is the flow? Where is the flow, my naga? Where is the expression of the ether? This box doesn't express the ether. Are we really made of stardust? Stars that go supernova are responsible for creating many of the elements of the periodic table, including those that make up the human body. Right? And we just touched on how with that shrimp. Right? What is the ether? The ether is the ever-present field that connects all things. Yes, everything is connected. Every inch of the ether consists of infinite amount of free energy. This is the elite's greatest secret. If science were to reveal that the ether exists, it will destroy the entire foundation of mainstream atomism and particle science. Denying the ether will be like a fish denying that it is surrounded by water. So what happens when Terrance Howard gets up there and starts spewing all of these facts? He automatically says, hey, I'm destroying science. It's done. And we got all these jabronis on my comments right now losing their shit. And I'm here for it. I am here to see the end of this whole build up, man. And we're coming in to wreck it. We're coming in to wreck the paradigm. I know I've personally been wrecking your paradigm for years, Hijack. I've been wrecking your paradigm for years, Hijack. Vibing up with the tribe, choosing up with Hawa, being congruent with the flow. And it's a lovely wave. It's a lovely wave to surf. We're talking about ether's the ever-present field that connects all things. The revealing of the ether would destroy the entire foundation of mainstream atomism. Crazy. Told y'all the portals have opened. The portals are open and your messengers have arrived. True question though is, how will you treat your messenger? How will you treat your messengers now that they are here? How will you continue to treat them? Ether, this fifth element in which the attributes of all other states have their basis, will be the principal object for scientific research in the coming centuries and is in fact the first and the one element. Shalom. It's another wonderful Shabbat. I hope you appreciated surfing this wave with Natural by Law, and that is the tribe at 432 Drop Nation. I hope we magnetized and electrified your soul just a little bit tonight, this morning, whenever it is that we go ahead and drop this. I had way too much fun surfing the wave with y'all, Shabbat, and I'm really excited and happy just to see how we take in this information. We definitely got more to talk about, so I definitely will be back, because this is the month of May, and we celebrating my Earth Day for the Shabbat. Ahab to the real ones. Ahab to all the flow and all the continued contributions. Don't forget to check out the site, that is naturalbylaw.net. And we have some pyramids coming up exclusively from Mama Natural. They will be Mama Natural's edition, Oregon pyramids. So look out for that. And for those who wish to support, put in your bid now for Mama Natural's pyramids, because they coming in. They coming in, alright? So A-Hop to the real ones, thank you for another fantastic voyage. Until the next time on another episode of the Magic Ether Bus. Shalom to the Khans, to the Drake Khans. Stay ethered up. Shabbat Shalom.